Howdy, boys and girls. It is week 13. It is also rivalry week. There, how was that?
That was excellent. Well done.
Thank you.
Well
Thank
done.
you. I've been rehearsing for like a week to get that. Actually, my face just finally finished thawing out from spending Saturday afternoon in East Lansing.
East Lansing, yeah.
And therefore, I can speak again. So, hi, Carla.
Hi. How are you? I just moved.
You are someplace different.
I am someplace different. I'm the first ever Carla and Crappy show being recorded from a hotel room.
Nice.
as we've already made the trek to Pennsylvania for the holiday, so thus the winter parka and the all blue because we are. So yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend. So, but yeah, so we're now not 650 miles apart. We're like 150 miles apart. So, hello down there.
Hello up there. Welcome back to Pennsylvania. Welcome to winter. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Yes, there's actually legitimate snow on the ground up here, but the roads are great. So it's the perfect kind of snow.
It's actually a little dicey coming back from Michigan State on Sunday after it got dark. Yeah, this is a little tricky. I could remember your winter driving skills, but that's okay because that means it's late November. We live in Big Ten country, and that's when things are the most awesome.
And you don't. You're not finishing the sentence there.
I didn't know. I didn't finish the sentence. I'm sorry. I wanted to. I've completely lost my train of thought here.
I'm sorry.
We should start with the rankings. Which were just announced. We're taping this on Tuesday night, and really, I was only kind of half paying attention because I was doing work for my actual work. But the upshot is nothing has changed, right?
No, the only thing that changed was that Louisville dropped, which we expected. Yeah. So everything that I said last week about Louisville, forget.
Sorry.
So, yeah. Thanks for showing up, Cardinals. That was great. But no, everything stayed status quo. They just dropped Louisville out, moved everybody else up. Pretty boring if you ask me. I think there probably could have been a little bit of shuffling in like the 10th. I was surprised Oklahoma was sitting where it was. It didn't jump anybody. Impressive win. That Colorado only got bumped up that one spot. Affected more possibly by the Louisville loss than their actual performance against Washington State. It was kind of a snooze fest.
Did you say anything about USC? I'm curious.
Yeah, good grief. I don't get it. If you didn't watch the playoff ranking show, that reference makes no sense to you at all. But yeah, they spent a good 5 minutes of the show talking about USC, and I don't know. I don't get it. I think that's a made-for-TV drama. Because it's the largest TV market in the country, and how do you get ratings? You talk about USC and UCLA. So they spend a great deal of time talking about USC. Yes, are they one of the hottest teams in the country right now? Absolutely.
Sure.
But the 3 losses, sorry.
It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Maybe actually we could start with talking about a Pac-12 game that matters. That might be something. That might be something. On Friday, it is the Apple Bowl. This is the traditional rivalry game between Washington and Washington State. This time at Wazoo. Washington's number 6. Wazoo is 23rd going into this week. Washington is a 6.5 point favorite. What do you think?
This is a really, really interesting game. And gosh, it's fun when rivalry games have some meaning behind them besides just the rivalry, right?
Yes.
And in this case, both teams have something to play for. Yes, Washington's got a lot more to play for in this game, but Washington State can still win the Pac-12 North and buy themselves a shot to go to the Rose Bowl in a Pac-12 title game. Now, Washington has more to lose because they're sitting in comfy country at number 5 right now in the playoff rankings, which is where you want to be heading into this week because either Ohio State or Michigan's going to drop out. So you've got to think that if they win out, they're sitting there at number 5, they're going to move in. So yes, Washington State, even though they're playing for a title, possibly a division title, is still kind of playing that underdog spoiler role here, which – I mean, it is Mike Leach's forte, right?
Right.
That's where he types that underdog spiel all the time.
Yes.
So this is a really interesting matchup with them playing at home. I think they lost some momentum last week losing at Colorado. And the way I went back and looked at the play-by-play, because I watched part of that Colorado game, and it's interesting the way that Colorado beat Washington State. As defense aside, all of Colorado's touchdowns last week came on the ground. That's really, really interesting. When you're going up against a team that's quarterbacked by Jake Browning, and they love to get it done through the air. So I really do think a key for Washington to win this game is to rely on the legs of Myles Gaskin. And he had a good week last week against Arizona State, but two big passing offenses here. It's really interesting to be sitting here on Tuesday night saying that the run game of Washington might actually be the deciding factor in this game, right?
Right.
And both teams have questions on defense. This is going to be, I see this as a high scoring affair. I do think that Washington's a little bit better balanced, although Leach has shown that his offense can run the ball a little bit, but they weren't able to run the ball all that effectively against Colorado last week. I think the Washington defense is better. But the fact that Wazoo's playing at home is going to make this a really, really fun game. I see this. I think the line is spot on. I think it's a one-score game. I'm going to lean Huskies in this one. But it wouldn't stun me either way.
Okay.
But I mean Huskies just because I think they're the more well-rounded team at this point.
Okay. I actually focused in on the same thing that you did when I was looking at this game. Statistically, the two quarterbacks, Browning and Falk, have actually had really similar seasons. 37 touchdowns and 7 picks for Browning, 36 touchdowns and 7 picks for Falk. Just kind of a fun, one of those things. It's fun how that works out. The thing that jumps out at you,
I can do better, right?
yeah. But the thing that does jump out at you when you're kind of looking at offensive production is Gaskin, who is the Huskies' leading rusher, and he's over 1,100 yards for the season. Maybe 1,000-yard rushing season isn't what it used to be, but that's the kind of production that you want to have if you're having a really balanced offense. And in this situation, I think that's the difference maker here. If Washington State has an advantage playing at home, and Leach has some hope of kind of working his underdog voodoo stuff. Keeping the ball out of Falk's hands, keeping Washington State's offense off the field is something that would work to Washington's advantage. And I think tight game because it's a rivalry game. But I kind of think that's going to be the difference in this game. A solid rushing attack, perhaps a little more balance, and maybe just a couple extra minutes of keeping the ball away from the Cougars, and Washington will walk out of there with a win. I know where I'm going to be at noon on Saturday. At that point, I already have been standing outside for about 4.5 hours. We will have had breakfast and beers, and I will be inside Ohio Stadium waiting for the start of a number 3 Michigan at number 2 Ohio State. Ohio State is a touchdown favorite. You go first.
Because we're going to spend the rest of the show talking about this game.
No, we're not. We're not. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's real. Like I said for the last game, it's really fun when these games really have something on the line more than just a rivalry. And this is probably the ultimate version of that because neither team here can technically play the role of spoiler.
Right.
Because both teams are trying to angle their way in to a share of the their Big Ten division title, and then a shot at Indianapolis and a shot at the playoff. Both of these teams last week had interesting performances heading into this game. And I use the term interesting very, very loosely. Michigan, the big intrigue heading into this week is who's going to start under center. Mm-hmm. And John O'Korn had a good, decent week last week. But I mean, it was another one of those Michigan kind of lollygag kind of games, I mean, yeah, they won 20-10 over Indiana. And yes, we've talked about Indiana quite a bit this season because, they've played some interesting timed games. And Indiana can give teams fits. Mm-hmm. but it just kind of looked like they just kind of got the job done. And I think a lot of that was because, they had a different quarterback.
Right.
The difference that Michigan had in that game was Davion Smith. He 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, and his 2 touchdowns in the third quarter both proved to be the game clinchers for Michigan. They were trailing in that game until that point. He scores 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, and the Wolverines hold on to win. So a lot comes down to who's going to play under center and whether or not they can get the ground game going again.
Mm-hmm.
If Davion can have a decent day, then okay, then this, there's some interesting things that can happen here. Ohio State, on the other hand, in that nice little 1-point win that you would witness firsthand, I'll let you talk more about that whole thing when I pass this back to you. Gosh, you look at the stats in that game, you look at the play-by-play in that game, and it's just like, what happened?
Right.
And I think some of that was, if you look at the numbers, JT Barrett was completely ineffective in throwing the ball, but how much of that were the elements? Because that was an issue for any team trying to play a game in Michigan last week.
Right.
And okay, so that might be part of it, but they might have just given away their secret sauce on how the Michigan defense could stop the Ohio, could win this game regardless of who's playing quarterback. Is if they can figure out a way to make JT Barrett ineffective through the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's the great equalizer here. It was the run game that pulled the Buckeyes through, and had D'Antonio not rolled the dice and said we're going, thinking he was in Vegas and going for the win. You easily could have gone overtime in that game. So a lot of just kind of interesting things factoring in here. I like the fact that the Buckeyes are playing at home. I like the fact that they've got more knowns at this point. There's still some questions around Michigan. Like I've said all season, I think Michigan is a great team. They've not come out strongly in any given week and proven it to me. Mm-hmm. They've won games that they needed to win. They've not made that statement yet. This is the statement game that they have to make in order to stay in the playoff. I think you're going to see one heck of a football game. And I think right now, because we know more about Ohio State, I'm going to give the edge this much, and because I'm a Penn State fan and I need you guys to win for me. But no, I'm going to give the edge to the Buckeyes here. I think playing at home is huge. But I've seen stranger things happen with your Buckeyes. I mean, we saw it in Happy Valley. Now, true, that was a road game, but there are times that if the offense gets baffled, it's tough to get the engines restarted. So I would be wary if JT can't get the ball going early. And then I'd start to get nervous. But I think if the Buckeyes can score first, kind of get their feet underneath them, get their offense running the way that it needs to be running, I think the Buckeyes win.
Okay.
Now let me hear your take on
my take. One thing I will say in defense of both Ohio State and Michigan last weekend is the weather was legitimately awful. Michigan State, Ohio State didn't have to deal with the same kind of snow that Michigan and Indiana did. But if you watch the little flags at the top of the goalposts, where at our game, they're basically just kind of spinning in circles all afternoon. Really, really tough to nail down what the wind was doing. And it was constant. I am certain that the experience in Ann Arbor was similar, with the added bonus of whiteout snowstorm. So take that for what it's worth. But Ohio State does have there are some mysterious things, and you saw a little bit of this on Saturday. Ohio State's offensive line basically vanished against Penn State, and that was an issue. With some short yardage rushing situations, with some pass protection situations on Saturday as well. So that is a thing that I will be concerned about. I think even with the weather as a variable, I'm not sure what Michigan can really expect to accomplish with John McCorn at quarterback. And if the option is to spate playing with a cracked or broken collarbone. That's what the reported injury was. Although he did practice today. So you don't really know which way you get an experienced guy, you get an injured guy. I'm not sure what the thing is. It makes things, I think, a little bit easier for Ohio State in that you do the Bill Belichick game plan, and you set up to stop Le'Veon Smith or whatever Peppers might be able to do on the ground on offense, and make the quarterbacks try to beat you that way. And if that's the case, even in those situations, I'd like Ohio State's, I think, 5th in the country in interceptions, and still a whole bunch of those returned for touchdowns. So I think that works okay in our favor. The fan of me is obviously like, wah! I do think the other thing that works in Ohio State's favor, whether I'm a fan or not, I think this team is not as experienced as the Wolverines are, but this season this Ohio State team has faced more tests. They've played a tougher schedule. They've played, definitely, we've talked about a number of times, they've played tougher games on the road.
Yeah,
I think
road season. What road season for Michigan? Right?
Yeah. I think this is something that's going to work in Ohio State's favor too. This is not going to be. I know I was kind of apprehensive about last year's game going in Ann Arbor, and that turned into kind of a blowout. That's not going to be the case this year. But a touchdown win, I think, is possible, and I think that's about what I would pick. Of course, I'm going to pick Ohio State, but even non-fan in me thinks that is how that's going to go. The final game we have on Saturday is right after my game, is the Iron Bowl, number 16 Auburn at number 1 Alabama. Alabama is a 17-point favorite. I took no notes on this. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to pick Alabama because I'm going to pick Alabama. But it is a rivalry game. Does Auburn have any chance of winning this game?
Yes, because it's the Iron Bowl,
Okay.
and that's the only logic that I have to be able to back that up. I like you. I didn't take any notes on this game either because if this game was being played in Auburn, then I think we have a completely different conversation about the possibility of Auburn coming in underdog, playing the role of a spoiler because they messed up and lost to Georgia, which makes this game meaningless now for them. Gosh, I wish they wouldn't have lost that game because that would have made this a whole heck of a lot more fun. Sure. But with them only having the opportunity to play spoiler, is that enough motivation in a rivalry game? Of course it is. But when that's your motivation and you're playing on the road, that makes that a lot tougher. I think this game will be closer than advertised because it's a rivalry, because it's these two teams, because Auburn's had one heck of a season. I think this game will be close, but to be perfectly honest, Alabama's got nothing to lose in this game. Yeah. They could rest their starters and lose this game, and their ticket to Atlanta for the following weekend is already punched. And if they win the SEC, they're going to be in the playoffs. So expect Alabama to be completely loose for this game other than the rivalry implications here. But no, I'm with you. I think Alabama wins this game. I think it'll be closer than the line just because it's the rivalry game. But I would expect more antics like, the kick six and all that fun stuff. If this game was being played in Auburn, I just think the atmosphere in Tuscaloosa is going to be too big.
Okay. It's, Auburn has recovered nicely from a really awful start to the year. And you do wonder, if they had figured their stuff out sooner, what that would mean for this game. But I think in the end, it does come down to where it's being played and the fact that Alabama's just a monster team that doesn't really have any reason to be uptight about this game. They could lose it, and it really wouldn't change anything. I can't let this go. Your bonus question for this week is Michigan State at Penn State. What do you think?
Well, I said it all along, and in that conversation we were having last week about how I still wasn't 100% convinced that Penn State wasn't going to find a way to lose a game before the end of the season to make this whole conversation completely moot. I still feel that way heading into this game. Now, they did what they needed to do against Rutgers. They rested a bunch of people. They had some guys out. Still had a fairly convincing win against Rutgers. Sorry, Rutgers. But this game still absolutely makes me nervous. The stage is really, really big here. And is this team ready for it? I mean, they had the stage against Ohio State and were able to pull that off. Can they pull it off twice in the same season? We'll find out on Saturday. Obviously, I'm optimistic that they will win that game. I'm not optimistic that if they win that game and win the Big Ten, will be even considered remotely for the playoff. Like I mentioned last week, I think if Wisconsin wins, I think you can make a very clear argument for them sitting at number 6 in the playoff rankings right now. And their 2 losses are of much higher quality than Penn State's 2 losses. I'm not sure the committee will be able to overlook 49-10. I just don't. That I can overlook 49-10. I mean, in a bad loss to Pitt, when those are your 2 losses, I can't with a clear conscience make that argument to put them in. But I mean, win the Big Ten and go to the Rose Bowl, isn't that what you up until 4 years ago, isn't that what you wanted anyway? Sure. So, I think the Knits are playing for a Rose Bowl berth here, or a chance to go to the Rose Bowl. I think they'll play big. I think this will be a nail biter, just like your game will be a nail biter. I see it coming down to the fourth quarter, just because that's the way D'Antonio's teams play now. That's the way they've always played. They've always been late in the season. You never count them out. You witnessed that firsthand last week. I think I think we're going to see it again next week, and it's just whether or not the Penn State is ready for that. Whether or not they'll be able to step out to that. I'm going to hold on to hope and say that yes, they're ready. Okay. But that's going to be one heck of a game. It's
going to be really cool. This is the kind of situation that I think Mark D'Antonio really relishes, and maybe he's even better in a situation like this than when Michigan State is a favorite. I know just maddening the play calls that his team came up with last week. Sure, the 2-point conversion thing was a head scratcher, but I mean that's the kind of thing that he does in those situations. I mean, the fake kick against Notre Dame a few years ago is a great example, and he ran a successful fake punt against Ohio State too. So he relishes stuff like this. I think the interesting thing to watch will be what, and as you said, I mean, how does James Franklin handle a situation like this? Because it's really the first time. That since he's been at Penn State, how does the team handle this? I have the luxury of being fairly comfortable with Ohio State's position, just as a fan about winning and getting a spot in the playoff on Saturday. So I don't have this screaming urge to go one way or the other for Penn State, Michigan State. I hope we get home in time. I want to make sure that we get to watch at least a little bit of that game. Let's see the end of it, because I think that's going to be a really, really good one. And I think I'm going to pick Penn State. Just a little edge at home, and I'm even though that's not a whiteout game and all the other stuff, that's still a hell of a place to play. And I wonder if D'Antonio has a problem kind of doing that 2 weeks in a row.
That's a good point.
Possible. Yeah. But I think Penn State's going to win that and get a crack at the Big Ten title this season. So we will see how that goes. Carla, enjoy Wivalwy week.
I will. You too. Enjoy Wivalwy week and turkey and all that fun stuff, and Columbus and
Columbus.
Wivalwy week in Columbus.
Wivalwy week in Columbus will be fabulous.
And please finish the sentence this time. And you don't.
And I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan.
We were singing that on the way out of the. We were singing that towards the end of the game at halftime, as we're walking out of. Although everyone in Michigan State is so nice, and they're saying we hope you beat Michigan, and most Ohio State fans saying we hope you beat Penn State and all this sort of stuff. So it was very different than that other town in Michigan, which that sort of thing does not happen. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving to Carla, to you, and to David, and to everybody.
And to you as well, and Kelly, and enjoy the turkey.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching. Enjoy. I hope you guys enjoy Wivalwy week. And we will be back. We'll be back next week.
We will be back next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week.
We got championship week.
We got championship week. Holy shit, championship week. Okay. I might be a little excited about this, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.